Excellent. All right. Well, appreciate everyone. Thank you for your time, Mr. Green, trustees, and members of the Vancouver School Board. I appreciate the opportunity to present our case regarding the disposal of the southern portion of Fleming Elementary. I want to start by saying that I can understand the situation that you're in. You have a problem to solve. There are chronic funding gaps and several capital projects that need to be completed by VSB. However, the trustees have a moral and legal responsibility to be informed and to take the public consultation process seriously. This should not be a box to check off on a checklist, but a meaningful process of engagement. I hope that my case will convince you that short-term thinking should not guide decisions such as this one. Your decision will have a generational impact on our kids and our community. To start, my name's Himan Mehta. My daughter attends grade 1 at Fleming, and my son will be joining the daycare program as soon as it's open. I mentioned building a house here because our home now houses 3 family units on a lot that was previously occupied by one elderly gentleman, and I'll touch on this later. Here's what I'm going to cover in the next 10 minutes. I'll talk about how the VSB survey feedback was ignored and present you with a petition of over 600 signatures that opposes the removal of this land. I'll show the Ministry of Education's own guideline for site area and how the current size of Fleming Elementary already falls short of this. I'll talk about the lack of nearby parks and green space and how other schools compare. And lastly, I'll provide evidence of how the school enrollment was forcefully downsized and suggest we base our forecasts on where kids actually live and will live. South Vancouver is an immigrant community with language barriers and busy parents who are trying to make ends meet. Due to cultural differences, parents are not comfortable voicing their opinion. In spite of this, we were able to come together as a community. Our family WhatsApp group is over 100 parents strong now, and our Facebook group is that big as well. Only one email was sent to the family regarding the disposal of the land, and no signs were displayed for the community to learn more. Why did VSB not engage the public more? Regardless, we were able to rally the neighborhood to provide 205 responses to the VSB survey in under just a week. As you know, trustees, 72% of the respondents said that the Fleming site is required for the future education needs of the district and opposed declaring this land as surplus. 80% of the suggestions support retaining a space for play, learning, community, or future expansion to meet educational needs. Let's take a pause. 80% of the suggestions disagreed with this decision. However, the survey results seem to have been completely ignored, as VSB staff is still recommending moving forward with the disposal. It was pretty heartbreaking. We had a feeling this would happen, so we put out a petition to save the space. So far, we've collected 615 signatures, and that number is growing by the day. Have a look. As you can see, there is a huge opposition to this decision. Please take the time to read the petition comments. Here's what one of the teachers said, and I just want to say thank you to that teacher for voicing their opinion. Many staff members from VSB have been uncomfortable speaking their minds on this matter. So she said, as a teacher at the school and a local resident, I want the land to be kept for students to play on and for the community to use. If the VSB needs revenue, the BC government should provide more funding. School districts shouldn't have to resort to leasing or selling their land. Regardless of where you stand, no one in this room wants less green space and to reduce an already cramped play area for 400 kids. See the comments about the value of outdoor space or better monetizing existing leases like Kingsgate Mall that VSB owns. We need this land to grow Fleming Elementary as it's already full. So I'll talk about site area. If you look at the BC Ministry of Education's guideline for area standards, Fleming's site area is already too small for 400 students. The proposal to reduce it to 1.65 hectares would actually be 30% less than the required site area for 400 students. The population was almost 500 students just 2 years ago, so that would have required 2.7 hectares. And I'll talk about the 500 students a bit later on in my presentation. However, in the survey report, the VSB staff countered that there are other schools that are similar in size. So I thought to myself, why don't I just have a quick look? Let's have a look at the first two in the list, Henderson and Brock. Henderson Elementary is right next to Sunset Park, a skating rink and a community center that's 3 times its size. General Brock is a 3-minute walk from Riley Park, Hillcrest Community Center, and Queen Elizabeth Park, which is now going to have a zoo. So basically, Brock's going to have a zoo in its backyard. Fleming, on the other hand, has an electric substation in its backyard. You can see that there is no green space at all close by. And that leads me to my next point. There are no parks nearby. The closest park to Fleming takes 8 minutes walk. Memorial is 15 minutes away, and you have to cross Ninth Street to do so. If you walk to the corner of Ninth and 49th, as I do every day when I drop off my kids, it's literally a concrete jungle. At the PAC meeting last week, I heard that Fleming is a have-not and a Tier 2 school that could use all the help it can get. A question for the trustees: how many of the 10 selected schools being considered for land sale are on the east side? We have done an FOI request for this, as you know. Is it a coincidence that Fleming was the first one to be picked? We have heard that children want full-size basketball courts and a place where grandparents can bring their grandchildren after school. Today, if you look at the north side, there's 2 tiny basketball courts beside the new school. If you look at the south side, next slide please, the original plan have the basketball courts on the busy 49th Street, but introduced a parking lot in front of it for some reason, likely because VSB was always intending to sell that land as surplus. It was then suggested that perhaps we move the basketball courts on 9th Street, where currently there's sloped grass areas that are supposed to help with the noise pollution from this busy truck crossing. But we would not have anywhere else to put them. Here's a possible plan. I just used paint to do it. Wouldn't it be so much better if we placed the parking lot closer to 49th and moved the basketball courts closer to the soccer field? The parking lot would still have the same driveway access mentioned in your report. This way, the 400 kids have more space to play and the community gets to enjoy more green space. We also have more room to grow as the new building is already full, and we will not be able to keep up with the population increase, which I will cover next. VSB has been forecasting on student enrollment, which makes no sense, as the school can easily control this by not admitting more students. Instead, the forecast should be based on where the children live and where they will live in the future. As you know, the City of Vancouver passed a bylaw in 2018 that 99% of the houses are now permitted to build a duplex. Like I said before, our land in the house that we just built has 3 addresses. We have a family living in our basement, and we have a young couple living in our laneway. You can see from the 2016 census stats that the number of rental units are increasing. Shouldn't we base our forecast on 2021 census polls that is about to take place? We've all seen the signs on 9th Street and other arterial roads for land assemblies. as our land becomes denser from these zoning changes, where are all these children who live in these new homes going to school? Did you know that just 2 years ago, the population of Fleming Elementary was almost 500 students? There's a lot of evidence when you speak to the parents that the school growth was categorically reduced by canceling programs and removing one of 3 kindergarten classes. I heard these frustrated and sad stories of how families were forced to have their children attend different schools. Parents cited the old principal, Ms. Kent, wanting to reduce the population from 500 to 400 students, which, as you can see, VSB was successful in doing. They have full control. Parents loved the intensive French program, for example, but as you can see, the program was canceled because the new building did not have space. Parents were then encouraged to move their children to a different school to reduce population. Why did we purposely build?
Do you know how much longer you passed your 10-minute mark already?
Sorry, Trustee Wong, I have maybe 1 more minute.
All right, sure, go ahead.
Is that okay?
Yeah.
Thank you. Why did we purposely build a new building to house less children than the old building? Another parent was denied admission for their 4th child, even though his 3 siblings went to the same school in the past. This 5-year-old lives across the street from Fleming, where his parents built a brand new house with a basement suite and a laneway. Can you imagine the frustration and the astonishment the parents experienced when they found out that their son did not win the lottery? There were 59 students registered that year, and only 40 were accepted into kindergarten because of the new building. The VSB forecast is flawed and should be overhauled. The VSB and the school has full control over how many it admits, and the population was systematically reduced to build a school with less capacity. And this is my last slide, Trustee Wong. Many parents I spoke with in the community are disheartened and disengaged. They believe the public consultation process is a joke, and the conclusion is already foregone, especially after the complete disregard of the survey results by VSB. I, for one, believe the value of public engagement and have faith that you, as the trustees and other respected stakeholders here, will listen and act on the facts that I have presented today. You have a moral and fiduciary duty to engage your constituents and listen to their feedback. Please do not ignore the facts I've laid out before you today and make the right decision. Keep this land for our children and community for generations to come. Thank you, trustees. I can't hear you, Trustee Wong.
Thank you, He-Man, for the detailed presentation and the summary at the end as well as the photos with regards to the schools and the adjoining parks near the schools. If you could hold a moment, I'll ask committee members if they have any questions for you. I have a comment first from our Secretary Treasurer, David Green. David?
Thank you, Trustee Wong, and thank you, Mr. Mehta, for your presentation. Very detailed, that sort of thing. I just wanted to clear up something for the committee members with respect to area standards. The area standards that are referred to in the presentation did not exist in 1912 when the school was built. They've only existed for the last about 40 years. And they're meant entirely to deal with, suggested school sites for new schools being constructed. So I just wanted to clear that up with the committee. Thank you.
Thank you. All right.
We did build a new school, but yeah, I guess new sites is what Mr. Green means.
Thank you. I'm just looking at the list here of the chat, if there's any questions or comment. First, Christopher, comment Jennifer, then Allison. So Christopher first. QP?
Hi. First, thank you, Hyman, for all of your work. It's nice to hear that somebody cares so much for their community and has reached out to other people in their community. I've only been in this committee for about 3 months now, I think, maybe 2 or 3 months, and so I've attended 3 or 4 meetings. And it was the opinion of the vast majority of the committee members that the sale of public land was a bad idea. It is the opinion of QP15 that the sale of public land is a bad idea. In general, there should never be a sale of public land permanently because it is a short-sighted plan. And I agree that we should be focusing on when people live here. I've said before, I'm a millennial. There's no chance for me to buy land in Vancouver, and I can't imagine selling land that you already have in Vancouver, because if there's any chance that you might need it in the future. It's disheartening to hear David Green say that the plan for the area sites is outdated because we do still need space for children 100 years later. So we shouldn't be reducing the size of a plan of a site that is already too small and we know is too small. So this was a bad plan. It's been a bad plan since it was first brought to this committee, and it continues to be a bad plan. So that's the opinion of myself and QP. I did talk to the QP15 shop stewards and everything. So that's our opinion on this land. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Christopher. Just want to be clear that there's going to be an item with regards to Sir Sanford Fleming, and as well, delegations. I didn't, with regards to meeting decorum, delegations, it's questions directed to delegations rather than comments back and forth, and through the chair rather than using specific names. With regards to comments, Secretary Treasurer was making direct comments with regards to the area standards. So if we can be very clear that this portion of time is directed at questions to the delegation. All right, just
My apologies. Thank you, Chair. My apologies.
Thank you. That's all right. Jennifer, question?
Yeah, thanks, Chair. And thanks, Hyman, for your comprehensive presentation, for clearly outlining the consultative efforts that you've also made on behalf of parents in the community who may not have been previously engaged. I also wanted to mention my appreciation for your mentioning of the neighborhood density and sort of some of the changes you've experienced as a family there. And curious if you could say a little bit more about the kindergarten registration process. As a trustee, I hear different pieces of comment on that and experiences from individuals, but you had mentioned a little bit, and just wondering if you could expand on some of what you're seeing either through PAC or also as an individual parent, and wanted to again clearly state that how damaging like the sale of public land really is for a district that is growing in all the ways that you mentioned. I just really appreciate that you've highlighted some of the contextual factors, including census, that are telling us more. So yeah, as a question to you, just if you could say a bit more about kindergarten, Reg.
Yeah, so, my understanding is my daughter went to kindergarten in the old school, and she was able to get in. There was 3 classes, no issues. And then our neighbor right next door, the picture that you saw, was not able to. And unfortunately, they were just told that apply and, hope for the best with the lottery system. And you should have seen their reaction when we heard this. I think it was last summer when that kid did not get in. The mother-in-law, the father-in-law, everybody was like just flabbergasted that we live across the street, and they were not able to get in to the school. So I don't know if that helps, Trustee Reddy. But yeah, it's I don't know. It seems like it's always very last minute that they find out as well, because they're trying to balance the numbers. And my understanding is it's up to us or up to the school to decide if it's 2 classes or 3 classes of kindergarten, because like I said, you're able to control that. So I wasn't very clear why, if there's 59 students in a wait list, you cut out 19 students so that you can make your number of 40. It just didn't make sense.
Did you have a follow-up, Jennifer? Or
No,
is that
thank you.
Thank you. Allison, Vesta.
Thanks, Chair. I really did have a comment. I just wanted to say that Vesta certainly supports everything that you've brought forward, Mr. Mehta, and I hope that you will stay for the remainder of the meeting so that you're able to hear further discussion about this issue. So thank you very much for your presentation. I thought it was excellent.
Thank you, absolutely. I will be tuning into the YouTube afterwards, absolutely.
Yes, that comes under item 4.1 later on. So you probably have about a half an hour
Okay,
in between.
yeah, I'll let the whole WhatsApp group and Facebook group know everybody's watching this. So
Okay.
all the parents know this is going on and they're watching this live on YouTube.
Thank you. David Green, Secretary Treasurer.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. You cleared up the issue with Chris. I was just providing some information to the committee on an inaccuracy that was in the presentation. That's all I was doing.
Thank you, sir. Okay, I'm going to look at my list here. List is exhausted at this point. Just give it a couple of seconds. Oh, there's Deepak Vice Chair. Would it be possible to let Mr. Mehta know that enrollment is managed by district, not by individual schools and principals? So
Yes.
Just to clarify that.
That's very clear to me. It's not the principal to be, yeah, I understand that.
All right,
It's always
okay.
coming from the top. We all have our bosses.
Perfect. Thanks, Amanda. And okay, I think that was the last question or comment. So thank you very much for the presentation, Himanshu.
Thank you.
And we'll watch us later. Thank you.
Yeah, we'll see you on Monday. We'll be presenting on that day as well.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I don't control that agenda. Take care.
Okay, bye.
All right. Thank you. Information item. This was added, and it's a good item to add.